A Houston man was preparing to drive himself to work one morning. But as he approached his truck that was parked in front of his house, he noticed that someone had broken into the vehicle and stolen a bag of items he had in his truck. Among the items stolen was a MacBook Pro laptop computer, an iPad, and $5,000 in cash. The man said he figured it was all lost and there was no way to recover anything. But a week later, he decided to check his iCloud account. That's when he found 17 selfies taken by two men. At first, he had no idea who these guys were or why their pictures were on his iCloud account. That is, until he noticed that they were holding stacks of $100 bills. These clowns were even holding the bills in their mouths. It was later learned that after the theft, these guys went to Burger King to celebrate their big heist. They even took selfies with the iPads they had just stolen. You can see the Burger King sign in the background. But they didn't just take pictures, they also recorded a video of themselves.
This, my good people, is what we get from a good night's hustle. We're doing a big face band over here. New, old, we just hustle. Don't worry about
no
how.
No 20s, no 20s, no 5s, no 10s.
Read it.
Next they went to a nearby Starbucks, connected to the Wi-Fi, and uploaded the video to YouTube. But while the iPad was connected to the internet, it also automatically uploaded the selfies to the victim's iCloud account. According to the victim, some of the other stolen items were later found in an alley behind Starbucks. With all that evidence, it didn't take cops long to locate these dumb thieves. That's because crooks like these tend to be repeat offenders. Thus, it's very easy for police to match them to their database of criminals. And that's exactly what happened here. One of the men was easily identified by a tattoo on his chest that matched what Houston police had on file. Police arrested the suspects, but it was unclear if they were able to recover the cash. It was also not clear if the victim's loss was fully covered by insurance. Police continue to remind people, never leave valuables in your vehicle, especially in clear sight. And of course, not leaving large amounts of cash in a vehicle would be common sense. Because not every criminal will be this stupid. In 2010, there was an American movie called The Town. It was about a team of thieves who dress up as nuns and fake police officers. They even hold an assistant manager hostage while robbing a bank. Well, apparently, some crooks get their inspiration from the movies. And it seems that the dumb criminals expect things to go just as smoothly. But like a Hollywood film, you have to follow the script if you want the ending to go as planned. For example, 3 men in Queens, New York wanted to rob a check cashing store. So just like in the movie, they dressed up as cops, parked outside the location and waited for a clerk to arrive at work. According to an ATF special agent, the clerk drove up and pulled into her usual parking spot. She was then approached by the 3 fake cops. All 3 suspects wore sunglasses and dark blue jackets with the NYPD logo. As they approach the employee, one of the men pulls out a bunch of photos of the woman's house and shows them to her. This was the same tactic used in the movie to show the employee that they knew where she lived. Once they got her attention, they said they needed to talk with her inside. She then entered the outlet with the 3 men. Once inside, they pulled out their weapons. They then proceeded to empty the money drawers and ransack the safe. The theft took only a few minutes and they escaped with over $200,000 in cash. But before leaving, they poured bleach inside the store to destroy DNA evidence. They then drove off in a Ford Expedition. Since the store they robbed operated across state lines, the robbery was classified as a federal crime. The 3 suspects then went to Cancun and enjoyed the good life. They bought fancy clothes and Rolex watches. One detective said it was like they wanted to live the life of a movie script. But while they were celebrating, law enforcement was investigating. That's because these guys made a huge mistake during the robbery. Let's revisit that scene. Recall that one of the men showed the woman photos of her house. Well, as you can see, as he's walking her inside the bank, he managed to drop one photo on the floor. And this is where it gets interesting. The code on the back of the picture led New York detectives to a Walgreens just a few miles away. It turns out that the leader of the criminal trio had paid for the prints in his own name and he lived just a few blocks away from that Walgreens. The Walgreens store then helped police identify the suspect. They were able to trace his email for online payment and found he had bought 3 NYPD jackets on eBay. But the story gets even more interesting. When federal investigators reviewed the surveillance footage, they initially thought 3 white law enforcement officers had committed the crime. But then they noticed that the hats worn by the suspects didn't fit properly. And the skin on the neck of one of the criminals did not wrinkle when he turned his head. They thus determined that the men were wearing masks, which explains why their facial recognition software could not get any hits. After checking footage from Walgreens, they discovered that the suspect who dropped the photo was actually black. Law enforcement then released subpoenas to all known companies who recently sold those types of masks in the area. They were immediately contacted by a company called Composite Effects. They create very realistic-looking masks. The company confirmed that one of the suspects had used his credit card to pay $2,000 for 3 Caucasian masks. The masks worked so well that he even wrote them an email of appreciation. In other words, they were so impressed with how easily they were able to commit crimes using these masks that they just had to thank the company for their help. Federal investigators then obtained his phone number from his bank. Next, they reviewed his phone records and identified his most frequent callers. Police were able to match the numbers to the other 2 suspects. Using cell tower data, they confirmed that all 3 suspects' phones were at the same crime scene. After arresting the men, they also confirmed that these were 3 black males disguised as 3 white cops. After taking DNA samples, police were able to connect them to other crimes. While searching their apartment, police recovered a $12,000 Rolex watch and plenty of Gucci merchandise. They also found a photograph of one of the men wearing a shirt with a character from the town on the front. Prosecutors used that evidence to prove that they got the idea from the movie. So the guy who planned this whole operation wound up making one big mistake. As one official said, to have all that planning, and then the irony here is that he dropped that one photo. That was the hammer, and he's gotta be just kicking himself right now. All 3 men were convicted by a jury and each will serve over 20 years in a federal prison. No doubt his 2 friends are kicking him too.